Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Weekly Wrap with just me today. So it's going to be pretty good, or well, pretty short, more than likely episode. Feels weird not having Cody here, but he has some other issues to attend to, so he will be absent. And yeah, suppose with all that said, let's just jump into the news. Let's just jump on into it, as some small YouTubers would say. All right, let's not even. I want to talk about this first, actually. Bernie Sanders 78 cancels all campaign events until further notice after having two stents inserted into a blocked artery before tweeting to say he's feeling good and tout Medicare for all. Well, I will give him credit for. I'm going to give him credit for at least staying on message, even when he's in the middle of surgery. Just being like, Medicare for all. Yep, called off appearances in South Carolina, his campaign canceled events. Yeah. While this is a bad thing, oh shit, nope, 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 don't do that. This is the reason I'm using Brave, fuck you. Yeah, if anything, I feel like everybody needs to show him a little bit of love. Like, nobody deserves to be taken out by heart problems. This is politics, it's not that serious, guys. Yeah. Now, as far as the long-term effect of what this is going to do, well, he's probably done. Like, let's be honest. It's one thing to look old and like the way he's moved for a long time has been old. He's sounded old. He's looked old. He's behaved old. And this is something that's a very common attack on the campaign trail, especially during the general elections. Not so much during the primaries. Like, you saw a little bit of it during the debates where it was literally just them going after Joe Biden's like, you're old. Like, yeah, I guess I am. I'm old. What are you doing, man? But, yeah, with that done, I think the man's just out. Because what's he going to say when he goes up on the campaign trail? He's not sickly. He had to have two heart stents like implanted, right? That's how heart stents works. Yeah, inserted into a blocked artery. Yeah, this guy is not healthy. I hope he's feeling better. I hope he lives a long and happy life with his millions. But I don't think it's going to involve being president. I think he's just too old. I think his health is in too poor condition. And I think it's too obvious a point to bring up. And he's always pushing out, because I follow him on Facebook to see what he's talking about, and he's always pushing out this, it's like, I'm the best campaign duo up against Trump. And yeah, probably. Like, I'm not going to dispute that because I haven't looked at the numbers myself, but even if you are right now, we're still a year and a half out. Well, a year and like a quarter, whatever. Actually, no, more just like a year, huh? Because the actual elections are going to be held pretty soon, pretty close to about a year from now. Wow. Okay. But anyway, yeah, I don't see how because he can't run on a bad economy. Just be like, well, the economy's bad. Clearly, we need socialism. No. What's he going to say? The economy's great. Clearly, we need socialism. That doesn't work. Whereas in an actual debate, I think he actually might be able to hold his own against Trump in some ways. In some ways, but when it comes down to it, he's a very old man who's not getting any younger, going up against, admittedly, another very old man. But Trump has energy. Sorry about that. Trump's had energy for a while. Yeah. Well, sorry, I'm just listening out there to see what's going on. What was I saying? Right. Trump's energy has had a long time of energy. He's always on Twitter. Whenever you see him on his campaign rallies, he looks energized. He looks a lot younger than he should for his age. We'll say that. But yeah, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of but here. I'm not really seeing how this guy, because I mean, even if we, because it's pretty obvious why we're bringing up this list. Who wrote this? Daily Mail? Okay. Yeah, so we've got Sanders, Biden right behind him. And with his health isn't doing that great. Bill Weld, who I don't really know much about. Trump, who is 5 years younger than him. That's a big difference. Warren, not even that much younger. Joe Sasek, Marianne Williamson, who honestly out of this list so far, can I just elect her unilaterally, please? That'd be amazing. Amy Klobuchar, probably the youngest actual option here. Joe Walsh, John Delaney, Kamala Harris, please die. Michael Bennett, Steve Bullock, no, don't actually die, Kamala Harris. I just don't like you very much. Let's see, Beto O'Rourke. Beto, I stand on tables, Rourke. Wow, Andrew Yang, 46 years seems very young when you're comparing it to fucking Bernie Sanders. Tulsi Gabbard. Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, neither of these would be too bad. Well, maybe not you, but you'd be great. And she's young-ish. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to even say about this story. Like, I'm trying to think of what else to say, and there's not a whole lot. Man's old. Honestly, he needs to drop out. I think anything else would be a waste of his own time. And it doesn't sound like he's, like, once you start doing things like car stints, yeah, okay, you can have a long, healthy life past that point, but there's probably a good chance that he's not going to be around too much longer. With that said, let's talk about Ukraine. Text shows U.S. diplomats sought Biden probe on Trump's behalf. Oh, interesting. Two top American diplomats tried to strike a deal on behalf of President Donald Trump for Ukraine leaders. And just to put this up front, I do not think a Trump impeachment would go well. I think it's a giant show. I think that the impeachment process would die in the Senate. But that's not going to be, it's not going to stop them from trying. Because Democrats are just reaching out for something, and I honestly think, before we even get into this, I honestly think that the impeachment process is the Democrats' final Hail Mary, so that they can try and come back. Like, because the position the Democrats are in, I feel like they are feeling the crunch really bad. So their strategy is, okay, if we're fucked either way, what if we just throw bombs everywhere and maybe the new landscape looks better for us? Hopefully. Maybe it damages them a little bit too. This is a Hail Mary, in my opinion. So, yeah. And this happens when you leave the other side desperate, unfortunately. So, two American diplomats tried striking a deal on behalf of President Donald Trump for Ukraine's leader to investigate discredited allegations of wrongdoing. What? How is it discredited? When was that discredited? Did I miss something? For improving relations with the U.S., according to documents released by House Democrats late Thursday. Text messages released by 3 congressional committees show Kurt Volker, the former envoy for Ukraine, coordinating with U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland, to help craft a statement for President Volodymyr Zelensky in early September. The statement they devised read, "We intend to initiate and complete a transparent, unbiased investigation of all available facts and episodes, including those involving Burisma and the 2016 elections, which in turn will prevent the recurrence of the problem in the future." Volker sent that line to Sondland. On August 13th, Hunter Biden sat on the board of Burisma, a natural gas company. That's all we're going to say about that. That's all we're going to say about that? Okay. Perfect, Sondland said, while the statement was apparently never made by Zelensky. The email suggests that Ukraine was willing to issue it, but only after Trump administration offered a firm date to him for him to travel to the U.S. for a White House visit. It also shows how Ukrainian officials were wary of being used as tools of a domestic U.S. political fight. I mean, they probably should be. On Friday, Ukraine's top prosecutor, and also doesn't this mean that the Ukraine was actually the one that was trying to hold something in exchange? They were the ones asking for quid pro quo. Just saying. On Friday, Ukraine's top prosecutor said some important cases opened before he was appointed in late August, including those relating to the Bidens, are being audited. Nice. He didn't say how long the review would take or whether any case may be reopened as a result. The text messages were released as House Democrats accelerate their impeachment investigation of Trump over his interactions with Ukraine's president. We really did just swap Russia for Ukraine, didn't we? This is amazing. Volker spent most of Thursday testifying behind closed doors to staffers and lawmakers from the 3 committees. A Republican official familiar with the day's closed-door testimony said that Volker testified that there was no quid pro quo between the Trump administration and Ukraine. I mean, that's, even according to what you've given me, that's technically true. It was actually from Ukraine. If I accept what's up here is true. Indeed, the text exchanges don't explicitly reveal a quid pro quo for freeing up U.S. military aid suspended by Trump in return for Biden-related investigation, but they suggest that Trump's diplomatic envoys were helping to carry out his domestic partisan aims with the involvement of Rudy Giuliani. Nothing you've shown me actually demonstrates that. I'm just saying, like, you're making this claim in your article, but you're not providing any of the evidence in the article. Maybe they've got sources. I don't know. Yeah, personal attorney. The person familiar with the text said they didn't provide full context of the exchanges. According to the person, who has not to be identified discussing private communications, anonymous source. So read as potential lie. It was actually the Ukrainian government that drafted the original statement, not Volker or Sondland. Okay, I'm disregarding this because you haven't given me anyone to actually talk about. Enough with the fucking... Probably shouldn't stop for that. I am way too sleepy right now. You watching from work, Cody? What's going on? Or are you doing this from the actual studio? Alright. I'm just going over the Ukraine case. It was Giuliani that adding to the statement that Ukraine would promise to investigate the Bidens and whether Ukraine meddled in the 2016 election. The person said when that version was shared with at the ultrasound waiting for an appointment. Ah, shit. Alright. Fair enough. Well, let me know how it goes, man. When that version was shared with Ukrainian officials, they refused, and the idea of issuing the document was abandoned. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm really not seeing any, because this is Bloomberg, right? Yeah, so it doesn't sound like they're going to be super unbiased. Let's see, Volker begins an August 9th text message to Giuliani with, "Hi, Mr. Mayor." Wow. That's, man. What are we going to do? Okay. He goes on, "Had a good chat with Yermak last night. Is that how you say that? Probably not. He was with your phone call, mentioned Z making a statement. Is it one of the people up here? Can we all get on the phone to make sure I advise Z correctly as to what he should be saying? Am I doing like a gender neutral thing right now? What is that? Are we want to make sure we get this done right? Thanks. Andriy Yermak is a Zelensky advisor. Okay. Julian responded, good idea, Kurt. I am on Pacific time. Why am I... Can we get to the part that's important? Okay. None of this seems bad on its own. Like, you guys are not framing this well. The documents include a message from the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, to Sondland, in which Taylor asks if the U.S. is now saying that security assistance and White House meeting are conditioned on investigation. Okay, so this is more interesting. The document also includes a message from the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, to Sondland, in which Taylor asks if the U.S. is now... Okay, well, that's a question. That doesn't mean they were. That's a question. It's a strange question, granted, but it's just a question. Call me. Taylor then makes a reference to some sort of interview in which Zelensky would apparently say something to unlock assistance. He expresses reservations that by withholding aid, the U.S. would be playing into Russia's hands. I thought we were a Russian puppet. What happened to that? The nightmare is that they give the interview and they don't get the security assistance. The Russians love it, and I quit. Okay. Am I the only one thinking that a lot of this stuff, like, it sort of flows together, but doesn't seem to quite fit together? In a follow-up message the next day, Taylor says he still thinks it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. Yes, it would be, if that's true, which we have not demonstrated. Sondland fired back with a sharp reply, telling him that Trump isn't seeking a quid pro quo. The original charge was quid pro quo, but the... okay, that makes sense. I was just reading Cody's message. Sondland fired back with a sharp reply, telling him that Trump isn't seeking quid pro quo, but wants to test Ukraine's commitment to reform. Okay. That's... Alright. It seems like a stretch, but whatever. Then I'm meaning a stretch from the Trump campaign. I don't know what that even means. Then he suggested that they stop texting and said Taylor should speak directly to Secretary of State Michael Pompeo. Republicans blasted the release of the text messages, saying they lacked adequate context. Probably true. Text messages do look a lot worse almost consistently out of context. This unilateral and cherry-picked release by the Democrats is a desperate attempt. I will, like, good on you, Bloomberg, for at least including this. I can appreciate that. The unilateral and cherry-picked release by the Democrats is a desperate attempt to further their failing impeachment narrative and skew the story. They already have the result. They're just trying to... that sounds about right. The Democrats in a desperate attempt to further their failing impeachment narrative and skew the story. Yeah, that's true. Like, I don't care how you frame this, even if they're right, that's definitely true. Republicans on the House Oversight and Reform Committee said in a tweet, the information cannot possibly be understood without Volker's explanations from today's testimony. In their letter to committee colleagues, 3 House chairmen said they are investigating reports that Vice President Mike Pence may have been made aware of the contents of Trump's July 25th call with Zelensky. Okay. A rough summary of that call last week, they wrote, showed that Trump repeatedly urged the Ukraine president to launch and investigation, copy editor, of Vice President Joe Biden, when Zelensky mentioned critical U.S. military assistance to counter Russian aggression. The president claims he did nothing wrong. Well, yeah, obviously. Even more, like, even if he was guilty, what else would he say? Oh yeah, I did it. He is now openly and publicly asking another foreign power, China, to launch its own sham this is news, right? This is news? Why do I care about your opinion on whether or not the investigation is a sham? Just tell me what's happening, you idiots. Against the Bidens to further his own political aims. Intelligence, like you were doing so good. Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff, Oversight and Reform Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings, and Foreign Affairs Committee Elliot Engel wrote. They were referring to Trump comments earlier in the day. Now, if only that was a quote too, because Bloomberg looks real shabby when you start putting in your own opinion. I don't give a shit about your opinion. That's not your job. Anyway. Oh yeah, there's no way they're getting Pence too. Like, they're not going to be able to get a 2-for-1 deal. And if they actually drag in Pence, they are so screwed and they know it. That'll be, like, as much as I'm not a fan of Pence, that would be pretty fucking funny. I like how Cody just ended up on the show anyway. Just in text form. Yeah, I don't think, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to even say just yet on this, because this is still very much in the air. There's a lot of information flying around, and everybody's trying to jockey for their position on what's right and what's not. We'll find out. Like, now that there's shitty shift. Now that there's like a grounding, I guarantee you we'll see more information soon. Both sides need to release more information to make their point, so they will. Just give it. I'd say give it a week. We'll probably have the most important aspects of this sorted and understood, and it's gonna be great. I don't think he's actually gonna get impeached, no matter what happens. Like, the Democrats don't have control here. They really don't. They're acting like they do. They don't. Even if the impeachment process gets through, he's not getting impeached by the Senate. The Republicans are not trying to lose their job. If they actually finish the impeachment process, all of the Republicans in the Senate right now are gone. Just saying. They know it. They're not impeaching him. Unless it's obvious. Unless it's real obvious that he did some shady shit. And the Democrats don't seem to have anything better than one claim goes right in the water. I'm like, oh yeah, what about this claim? Well, okay. Have you tried just being right about the first claim for once? Like, can we try that? Yeah, Cody's right. He could get impeached but not removed from office. Because the impeachment's basically just, it's like an indictment. So, yeah. I don't think he would actually get convicted of anything. Just saying. This whole thing is a dog and pony show. We're all wasting our times. This is dumb. But this dumb waste of time investigation that will almost certainly come up with nothing, almost certainly, as it has every single other time. Yeah, we'll see. Good week. All right. And for the final story, 10-year sentence for Amber Geiger triggers chance of protest and a hug of forgiveness. What is that? The victim's mother said Geiger's sentence would give the former officer time to reflect and change her life. I mean, probably. I don't know if 10 years is enough, but whatever. Amber Geiger got 10 years in prison Wednesday for murdering Bottom? I'm not sure. Mr. Jean. I think it's a Mr. A sentence that set off angry chants outside the courtroom and an unexpected moment of forgiveness inside. If you're truly sorry, Bottom's 18-year-old brother, Brad Jean, told Geiger from the witness stand before walking out and embracing her. I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. Oh, that's really nice, actually. The victim's mother, Allison Jean, said a Geiger's sentence would give the fired officer 10 years to reflect and change her life. The native St. Lucian also called for change and a renewed focus on police training in the city where her son died. For some background on what exactly happened, the basics are she apparently walked into what she thought was her apartment. She thought she was being broken into and shot a man. It was his apartment. So, yeah, not exactly a great look. She is, she seems very remorseful. Remorseful enough that she managed to convince the family, you know? Honestly, everybody outside, like, guys, if the family is just forgiving her, seriously, I get it. It's not really even about the guy, but calm down. There is so much more to be done in the city of Dallas, she said, addressing a crowd gathered around her on the 7th floor of the courthouse. The corruption that we saw during this process must stop. What? I thought, didn't we just say that we forgave her? Prosecutors had asked for no less than 28 years. A reminder that Gene would have celebrated his 28th birthday this week if not for Geiger. Okay. That's not how you come to, that's not how you figure out how many years someone gets in prison, guys. I get it. She fucked up real bad. She fucked up real bad. But, like, you don't base it on how many years someone is old. Can you imagine if someone accidentally killed an 80-year-old? 80 years in prison, bitch. No. She was faced between 5 and 99 years or life in prison. Fair enough, but again, no less than 28 years. Shut up. That's not how this shit works. And the jury considered that, but rejected a sudden passion defense. And could have reduced her punishment to 2 to 20 years. Geiger will be eligible for parole after 5 years. So, regardless of any of this, the most likely scenario is she's going to do well in prison. Hopefully. I mean, it is a female prison, so at least she's not going to get rammed in the butt. Geiger, 31, was off. So my point is she'll probably get out after like 5 or 6 years. Was off duty, but still in uniform in the night she killed Gene at the Southside Flats apartment, just blocks from police headquarters. She said she mistook her apartment for hers and thought he was a burglar. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that the brother can recognize actual contrition, because that seems to be a rare thing nowadays. After a day of testimony focused on how long Geiger would spend in prison, Gene's 18-year-old brother said in his victim impact statement that he wished she didn't have to serve any time at all. Instead, he said he wanted for Geiger what his older brother would have wanted. I think giving your life to Christ would be the best thing that Botham would want for you. I love you as a person and don't wish anything bad on you. Wow, okay. He really went in for the forgiveness. Okay. As soon as the judge said it was okay, Geiger rushed to the victim's brother and wrapped her arms around him. They hugged while sobbing could be heard in the courtroom. Wow, even the judge was getting emotional. Okay. Gathered outside the courtroom, activists shocked by the sentence began chanting, "No justice, no peace." You guys would have done that no matter what. Can we stop pretending that this is about the sentence? Seriously, if she'd gotten anything less than life, all of you would be saying the same thing. And again, the family has forgiven her. It's time for y'all to let it go too. They were the ones actually impacted. Dee Crane, the mother of Travis Crane, a young black man who was fatally shot by an Arlington police officer. How many of this does it take to get justice? This is not your case, lady. I'm sorry for what happened to you and your son. This wasn't even, like, yes, it was a police officer that did it. Like, yes, it was a police officer that did it. This isn't really the same thing as, like, what you think of as a police shooting. She thought she was in her home, allegedly. Like, I haven't seen any actual evidence of that, so we'll say allegedly. But I don't think she just broke into I don't think she just broke into a black man's house to shoot him, you know? This looks like she thought she was acting in self-defense. She wasn't, technically. And not even really technically. She wasn't acting in self-defense. It wasn't her home. But she wasn't really acting in capacity of a police officer. Just having the badge on doesn't make it the same thing as someone got called, the police came, and just... We're not talking about Tamir Rice, where they show up and just blast a kid. showed up in her own house, or tried to show up in her own house. Just saying. Not the same situation. What about my son? What about Botham Jean? Just, it's not the same. How many of us is it going to take before you understand that our lives matter? We already know that. Like, I don't know what to tell you. We already know that. And when it comes down to, like, and I know no one wants to talk about statistics when it comes to matters of emotion. I get it. You're not that far disproportionately affected compared to the situation surrounding. We know your lives matter. But all of these protests just kind of, I don't know, in a weird way it diminishes it. Later, Botham Jean's mother, Allison Jean, said the Dallas Police Department has a lot of laundry to do, calling for better training of officers. That's fair. That's totally fair. If this was applied in the way it ought to have been taught, my son would have been alive today. Also true. If Amber Geiger was trained not to shoot in the heart, my son would be standing here today. Also true. We love you, Mrs. Jean. Someone called out as the attorneys escorted the family away. Sounds to me like Mrs. Jean is being entirely reasonable. How could it be possible? Before jurors delivered the decision on Geiger's punishment, which I actually do agree is too low, I agree that her punishment is too lenient, in my opinion. From the judge's point of view, I get it. If they're emotional too, but while I don't think she needs exactly 28 years as some sort of symbolic punishment, that's just silly. We're talking about justice. We're not, like, the judge isn't the mob. They're not the same person. Just saying. I do think 10 years is just too low. Maybe 20. Maybe even 30. But, yeah. In my opinion, it should be 10 years before she can even receive parole. She did walk into someone else's house and then just randomly murder them. She did do that. There's no question there. Those are the facts of the case. Race neutral, politics neutral, she walked into another man's house and murdered him. For no real reason. Just because she made a mistake. In a lot of different ways. But this is still murder. How could it be possible, he said, shaking his head and dabbing his eyes with a white handkerchief. I'll never see him again. Ah, that's the father. Okay. Alright, Cody. See you around. Have fun. Let me know what happens. His father, Bertram Jean, told the jury he longed to see his oldest son again. How could it be possible? I'll never see him again. Every day is a struggle, but Sundays are especially difficult. Every week after worship services, Botham Jean talked to his father in St. Lucia about what happened in the church. He still can't watch videos of Botham singing. Thanks, Cody. I'm still not ready for it. It hurts me that he's not there. Yeah. Fair. I don't know if I'd react any different. I'd probably be much more angry than this man is, honestly. Prosecutor Lakita Long displayed a photo of Bertram and Allison Jean at their son's funeral. She asked what was going through his head when it was taken. How could this happen to us, our family? How could we have lost Botham, such a sweet boy? He tried his best to live a good, honest life. He loved God. He loved everyone. How could this happen to him? Also a fair question. A juror wiped away tears with the collar of her denim jacket as Jean broke down on the stand. Then other jurors began to wipe their eyes. A final appeal to the jury. In the prosecution's closing arguments, Long urged the jurors to consider Jean's loved ones as they deliberated Geiger's punishment. I know that that's fair. I know that's not technically dirty pool in prosecution, but again, that's not how you figure out punishment, in my opinion. There are modifiers that are fair, but I don't know. The way that the prosecution's approach to this seems very strange, in my opinion. Long, clutching a photo taken at Jean's burial, told the jury that it shouldn't consider a lighter sentence based on the sudden passion defense. He didn't provoke his own death. Very fair. That's true. The only reason we all sit in this courtroom today is because of her actions. True. And for her actions, there must be consequences. Also true. In his closing arguments, Geiger's attorney, Toby Shook, that's Shook, really, pleaded for leniency. He acknowledged the jury had seen her offensive social media posts and racist text messages, but he called them only a snapshot of her life. Shook argued that Geiger's true character was apparent through her relationship with friends and family. He also implored jurors not to punish his client harshly because of other high-profile police shootings. This event wasn't planned. This event is so unique, you'll never see it again in the United States history. Possibly, yeah. He said lengthier punishment should be reserved for dangerous, deliberate criminals, not people that have made mistakes. That's not unfair. Geiger has a conscience. She has shown true remorse. She feels horrible for what she did, and for the rest of her life, she'll think about what she did to get to Botham Jean and regret it in every bit of her soul. Fair. She did still murder a man, but also true. From what I've seen of her. Geiger, who turned her head slightly to watch each attorney speak, did not testify during the sentencing phase of her trial. The first defense witness was her mother, who told the jury how Geiger hasn't been the same since shooting Jean. Karen Geiger said her daughter has told her repeatedly that she wished it was Jean who had shot her. Oh, fuck. She would always tell me she wishes she could have taken his place. She feels very bad about it. Yeah. I mean, it's not wrong. I thought it was Karen saying that she wished that, and I was like, damn, cold ass mother. But Amber wishing that makes some sense, actually. Because I mean, from a police officer's perspective, this is a breaking and entering where someone was murdered, but she was the one that did it. So yeah, she's probably not okay with that. Early in the trial, Geiger's defense had told jurors she had faced adversity early in life and had interactions with police that made her want to be an officer when she grew up. On Wednesday, her mother told the jury how she had called the police when Geiger was 6, after she realized a man she was dating had molested her daughter. Elena Geiger, Amber Geiger's sister, said that since shooting Jean, her sister doesn't have the same light or energy that she had before. Yeah. She expressed to me how she feels bad spending time with her family because he can't be with his. Damn, that's a pretty fucked up mindset. Again, murderer, but still, damn. The defense she also called on close friends from Geiger's childhood to testify on her behalf. Because this also, I guess I'm just saying that because it sounds like someone that's very close to their family. So, feeling bad about spending time with her support structure is going to put her in a pretty fucked up place. Especially since it sounds like she's not going to see them for a while. Maribel Chavez recalled fond memories of Geiger from high school mariachi band. What? They had their own mariachi band? Alright, whatever. They remained friends as adults, and Chavez said that the former officer was a protector who loved being around people, but that everything has changed since the shooting. She does not feel like she deserves to have any kind of happiness. Ooh. I hope that they're putting her on suicide watch. After the 10-year sentence was announced, District Attorney John Krizut said that he expected a longer sentence. Yeah, I can kind of understand that. Over 37 years, I've seen so many cases. I have long stopped trying to guess what a jury would do, and I have learned to accept their judgment. He said that the Jean family also accepted the outcome. They're happy that this is done, that she's been held accountable, and it's over. That makes sense, from the family's perspective. As the sun set, a crowd formed on the steps outside the courthouse to protest the sentence, which many believed was insufficient. Omar Suleiman, why do I feel like I know this person? Ugh. Alright. That's usually not a good sign. A civil rights activist and imam acknowledged the grace Jean's younger brother had shown in hugging and forgiving Geiger, but said it doesn't suggest people shouldn't fight against injustice. If you're going to talk about the grace of his brother, then talk about the outrage of his mother. What? But her mother. What? Activist Dominique Alexander, who had planned the gathering outside of us as a celebration of Geiger's guilty verdict, expressed disgust that Geiger only faced 10 years in prison. What justice did today was slap us back in the face with levels of injustice. I mean, to be fair to Geiger, A, this wasn't really the judge that did this. It sounds like it was the jury that decided this. B, can I point out, 10 years is not a short sentence. For murder, it's a short sentence, but this was also a pretty weird murder. So, could there be a race factor here? Sure. But, I don't know, man. One prosecutor was arrested in a confrontation with police. Safia Paul, 31, was taken into custody on a misdemeanor charge of obstructing a roadway. What exactly does obstructing a roadway have to do with getting justice? Oh, right, nothing. Paul, an activist from Jean's native home of St. Lucia, was released Thursday morning on a $500 bail. She'd come to Dallas to see the trial and danced outside the criminal courthouse the day Geiger was convicted. It's a little strange, but okay. It's unfortunate this young lady was brutalized simply for exercising her First Amendment rights. What? Was brutalized. Brutalized. Okay. Your First Amendment rights does not include fucking playing in traffic. Ever since July 7th, 2016, Dallas police have verbally expressed they are afraid, and their behavior from last night was indicative of that. They overreacted. The protesters marched through downtown Dallas for hours, winding their way to county jail, before finally making their way back to where they started, the criminal courthouse. Who runs these streets? We do. Oh, God. I would recommend not taking that too far in Texas, guys. Wrong state for this shit. The demonstrators called the wholesale changes at the Dallas Police Department for firing Police Association President Mike Mata. What exactly does any of this have to do with? Like, I'm still trying to figure out how we're connecting these pieces. Because at the end of the day, this is a tragic story about a woman who is also a police officer. But when she's off the clock, she's not a police officer any more than I'm a fucking driver when I'm off the clock, you know? Just saying. At the news conference Wednesday evening, at the end of the, as I was saying, sorry. Sneeze. Whew. This tragic story about a woman shooting a man in his own home. For no real reason. Just, she thought she was in her home and she wasn't. I don't know. At a news conference Wednesday evening, Dallas Police Chief Renee Hall said the parts of the trial had concerned her. Okay. Maybe we'll get some actual explanation as to why this part's happening then, because it seems unconnected. Although she did not mention Mata by name, she described testimony that he had tampered with an in-car video camera after Geiger was placed in the vehicle. Okay. Hall also said she planned for internal affairs to investigate Officer Martin Rivera, Geiger's former police partner, who deleted text with Geiger that outlined their sexual relationship. Okay. What does that even... I'm not sure why that's relevant. We trust that God will do the rest. At a worship service Wednesday night at the church Jean attended, Pastor Sammy Berry described the dissonant reactions to the verdict and the sentence. When we heard the verdict, and it was what we were looking for, and then we heard the sentence, it caused us to stand still a little bit. What I learned is there's a good amount of reconciliation that's needed in our brotherhood, in our city, in our nation. Alice and Jean likened the years since the shooting to being in the eye of the hurricane. What happened to us has really tested my faith in God. It almost made me give up. But when I reflected on Botham's own motivation, he would always say, don't give up, look on the bright side. Good message. His father told worshippers that despite the family's deep pain, he has found comfort and faith. We've mourned, we've wept, but we trust that God will do the rest. Man, Dallas News did a very good job on this, actually. This is quite good. There were some points where I was like, I feel like we're editorializing a little bit, but no, this is actually a very good write-up of what happened. I think I pretty much got my thoughts out on this over the course of this article, and this is just like recapping, so I won't bore everyone with that. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for this to be part of the Black Lives Matter message. There's better examples. Like, I still think if they really wanted to drive the point home, Tamir Rice is the ultimate example. I won't tell them how to run their activism, but when you include stuff like this that has really nothing to do with whether or not Black Lives Matter, it cheapens it. This is not a story of a woman that saw a black man and was just like, blah, blah, you know? This was a story of she walked into what she thought was her house, murdered a man in his own home, and understood her mistake, as far as I can tell, immediately. As far as I can tell. So, yeah. Especially considering how quickly this trial went, it's clear that she wasn't even trying to fight it. I'm just saying. Like, this isn't the same thing. It's not the same thing. I'm sorry. But, yeah. Anyway. Without Cody here, it's hard to riff for very long. So I'm gonna go ahead and log off, and yeah, hope you enjoyed a little shorter episode this week. Have a nice day, guys.